He's right there.
This episode of the Bucktails podcast is brought to you by Pistol Creek and Trip Sporting Goods. Pick his head up. Yeah. Look at that. Woo. Good deer, babe. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Bucktails podcast. This is your host, Eli Self. I have with me DJ Cottrell and Chase Turner, two guys that are pretty big in this North Georgia area. Chase Turner runs FamTrad Media. He has all the social media outlets. He has a YouTube channel. He shoots big bucks in Metro Atlanta in urban settings. Started following him, I guess, what was it, last year? Your channel came out, Chase?
Yep.
Cool. And then DJ, a few years older than him in high school, but I've known who he is. We've been kind of acquaintances for a long time. We both went to Lumpkin County, and his family lives here in the town. And he has Cottrell Ranch Outfitters, which is another Instagram page. So we're going to go into talking about kind of where those things started, where do y'all want to see him going, and kind of a curveball here. Chase, how did you get started hunting? So did you start at a very young age? Did you start a few years ago? What is your hunting origin story?
Well, I pretty much I was just raised in it. I guess pretty much whenever I was growing up, my dad, he was a huge deer hunter. He kind of moved on more to stuff now, but he was really a deer hunter whenever I was in diapers. I don't know, when he just got me into it, going to the club, stuff like that. I just found I was just fascinated with the wild point, and every time I bring a deer, I was out there messing with it or playing with it. Obviously, he took me to the first deer, and then just kind of went on from there, and then I deeper and deeper and deeper into it. Now I can't quit doing it if I want to. So.
No, Chase, that's awesome. I can definitely tell you're an experienced hunter from your YouTube channel and the videos I've seen. It looks like you're very successful with it, and just the pictures that I peruse through on social media. You've killed some giants for sure. DJ, to you, the same question. What is your hunting origin story? How'd you get started hunting?
Yeah, man, it really started whenever I was about 5-6 years old. Dad, he got this property, and we were sitting on the stand one day, and he was like, "Man, I'm gonna build a house one day right here." And he ended up building a house right where we had that stand, and his backyard is just a deer haven. And I grew up watching those big deer just roam around his backyard, and he wouldn't let us shoot them. That was kind of his thing. He wouldn't let us shoot them in the backyard. We had to get out and go do it. And that's pretty much where I got started. 9 years old, got my first bow. I actually started bow hunting before I rifle hunted. And 10 years old, got a 243 and killed my first deer with a rifle. Wasn't nothing special, but it was special to me, and that's what I think about the hunt. About people forget to live the hunt. Everybody's all about these big mature deer. If it tickles you, take it. You only get that one chance.
Yeah, that's something I think that, I love all the content that you see online, all the YouTube channels, all the TV shows. But yeah, people have definitely gotten into, man, is this deer old enough? Is this deer big enough for me to shoot? And I've had people ask me that before. And I'm like, man, when it comes out, if you get excited, you need to take it. That's, not really talking about your first deer. First deer is different, but just anybody hunting in general, we have gotten too much into the fact of keeping up with the Joneses. Oh, so-and-so's killing 120, so I need to kill a 120. It's definitely gotten into that kind of thing of, a competition. And like you said, if it makes you happy, take the deer,
Absolutely.
So, no, heck yeah, man. Yeah, both of y'all have kind of a similar story to me. I started, from the time I could sit still and be quiet in a stand, I've been deer hunting. We've had a hunting club down in Wilkes, and I grew up taking naps in the bottom of a box stand, to hunting with my dad in double stands, and that's where I've learned to hunt. So it's something that I've always done, and so kind of a similar story there for both of us. So Chase, another question over to you on FamTrad Media. So I assume that's Family Traditions is what it looks like, but talk about the name, the logo, kind of where you got started there, because there may be some listeners out there that are thinking about starting up their own channel or content creation deal. How did you make your logo? Did you make it? Did you outsource it? And then where did the name come from? So talk about that a little bit.
So pretty much I got into like doing video on my own hunts like a long time ago when I was a lot younger. I started out filming like I used to race dirt bikes a little bit in high school, and I got a video camera to kind of do that. Well, my dad was taking that same video camera and filming deer hunts at the same time. And then once I started filming a couple of hunts and stuff like that when I was younger, I don't know, 13, 14 years old, maybe a little bit older than that, I just kind of fell in love with that side of it. So I toted a camera around with me forever, getting into that, trying to figure out how to film deer and self-film and stuff like that. And then every once in a while we'd have a buddy or two go with me, and we'd do it that way. And then, I don't know, I was probably junior in high school, I guess. I was like, we need to make a YouTube channel, so we did. But I never had, like, the right equipment to, like, get it all exported and edited and all that. Like, I could make a decent video, but I never had, like, a good enough computer to get it onto YouTube without it taking a month to get uploaded and all that. So I had a couple of different little pages back in the day and stuff like that. And then finally, like 2 years ago, I broke down and just like pretty much sold all my old stuff, computer, camera, everything, bought everything brand new, and was like, all right, I'm doing it this time. Like, because the other ones, they would last for just a little bit, and then we'd get like a video or two posted, and it was such like extra work just getting a video uploaded that we all was just like, pretty much just slowly peter out of it and quit doing it. And then, so like I said, I went and bought all new stuff and like really got into it and editing and trying to get everything uploaded the right way and all that stuff. So I finally just kind of started just kind of treating it like a job, like if I wanted to make it something one day, then I had to treat it like a job for it to be a job, I guess. So that was kind of my mindset on it. So once I kind of started doing that, it just started rolling a lot smoother, and plus once I got the right equipment and stuff to do it with, it kind of helped out a lot more. So but you still got to shoot deer to do that. So but yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And then the name, it was just like I said, how I got started and stuff. It was always a big family thing for me. I was all the time at deer camp with my dad, my papa, and family and friends and stuff like that. So it was kind of brought down to me as a family tradition. So I kind of come up with that name and then just kind of shortened it into FamTrad. So it went from there. And then my logo, I kind of just like drew it on a piece of notebook paper, and then I never could figure out how to make it like really pretty. So I got another guy to doctor it up for me, and that's what we come up with. So because we're mainly deer hunters, but once March rolls around, we're in the turkey woods somewhere. We chase turkeys pretty hard also. So.
Oh, lost you there. My internet crapped out.
No,
sorry,
good?
Guys. I'm back now. I think. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, up here in Dahlonega, Windstream.
We all three got it.
Golly. If there was another place to go through, you guaranteed I'd have it.
Oh, heck yeah, I'm sure we all would.
Right. Yeah, I think we get 15 megabits per second, and most of the time it's more like 4. So,
right.
Oh well. But no, what I'm saying is, I love the name. It makes a lot of sense. Keeps it close to home. It's a cool looking logo, and then in this kind of stuff, like I made my logo on PowerPoint. I drug a hexagon in and made a bunch of shapes, and it kind of worked out, But like I was just tinkering with it one day. I'm like, well, dang, that looks pretty cool. So here we are. But yeah, and you said something in there too. You've got to kill deer to make it happen, and that's I'm sure that's an added stress. I haven't never really made a fishing YouTube or anything like that, but I do tournament bass fish and I've tried to make videos here and there, on the water fishing, and it's with that you can have 3 or 4 hours of absolutely nothing, and then all of a sudden you'll catch 3 or 4 or 5, and it would make a good video. But it's those days where I don't have a tripod or don't have a mount, and I'm like, well, it'd be a good time to have a video right now, but I don't have my crap with me, and if I ever bring it, then they're not biting good. But no, that's definitely, I'm sure it's an added stress for you. Like you've got to kill deer to have content. I mean, sometimes though the heartbreak stories or the ones where it doesn't work out, heck, those sometimes are just as good. I mean, you learn from it, the viewers you'll learn from it. So no, heck yeah. So DJ, me and you talked a little bit before we started recording here about Cottrell Ranch Outfitters, but yeah, talk a little bit about like what is it? What all are you wanting to do? What all do you do now? Because I saw posts about bow fishing back in the summertime. I know you've taken a couple of trips out west this year and killed some animals. So yeah, how'd you get that started, and kind of where do you want to see it go?
Yeah, man, it kind of all started with just a drunk night one night, and I started drawing up my family's brand and just adding antlers to it, and then I added ducks around it one night, and I was like, man, this actually looks good. And one day I'm gonna take it somewhere. Right now, it's really got nowhere. It's gonna be something one day though. We've talked about doing some bow fishing charters on Lanier and Chattooga. Talked about maybe one day doing some guided hunts on the farm, lifestyle brand, doing a processor. We've talked about all kinds of stuff. It's just all in the works right now, though.
I gotcha. Yeah, that's something that you don't hear a lot of is a bow fishing charter. I'm sure people do it on Lanier, but most of the time it's a striper guide or a spotted bass, bass fishing guide. I don't know of many other, bow fishing guides locally. So that'd be a pretty neat deal to get into for sure. A smaller market.
Seems like something that would take
that's
off
something
for sure.
that not like some people do it, but not a lot of people have. I feel like that would be a pretty neat thing to get into. Like I said, it's a smaller market. I mean, you pretty much have the market share, if you were to get into that. So heck yeah, man, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Back to you, Chase. What is your goal for FamTrad? I know you make YouTube videos. Are you wanting to? I mean, I'm sure that may be your goal to make it a full-time thing, or what direction do you want to see it go, or do you want to keep it you want to keep your day job, still have time for family, that kind of stuff, because I'm sure that'll cut into family time trying to be out in the woods all the time hunting. So where do you want to see it go, your FamTrad?
I'd like to make it a full-time deal one day. I mean, that's the dream, at least. I mean, like I said, I've been videoing and hunting obviously my whole life pretty much, and then got into videoing a little bit later on, but I've always had the passion for just making cool videos and stuff like that. And then now that like I see that I can make like a decent episode and people can watch it, and helps a lot when you have feedback on it and people are saying, hey man, like really like that, you did a good job on this one and stuff like that. It makes you keep wanting to make more. So I mean, once you see people that like it, it makes you want to do it even more. And then, so, I mean, that's kind of my plan for it, just to see if I can take it full time and keep on going with it. That's the dream I'm chasing, at least. If it doesn't work out, I'll do it part time. I mean, it's not like if the whole thing shuts down tomorrow, I'll still be filming deer hunts, whether it goes anywhere or not. But the end goal is to try to make it full time one day. I'd really like to. I'd like to travel around and hunt and kind of make some money off of that, just enough to buy tags and feed the family and stuff like that. And my wife works also, and so do that, and then we sell a little bit of merch and stuff like that, and make it a brand / YouTube, to where people can watch it and support us and stuff like that. So,
no, good deal. I know me personally, I love watching your stuff because I know it's local. I know did you go to Dawson or Forsyth? Where did you go to high school?
I went to North and Dawson.
Gotcha. Yeah. So relatively local to, we're both from Dahlonega, but anytime you see something like the North Georgia area and see, a high quality video, because your videos look great now. I'm not sure what camera you have, but it's crystal clear. Editing is good. It's a well done video because there are a few other smaller, YouTube channels that are out there from guys that are local, and you can tell that it's, more thrown together, and it's not knocking them, but you can just tell when it's a higher quality product, and yeah, definitely enjoy watching your videos, especially like I said, it's local guys that kind of know through the grapevine, heard of you before, heard your name before, that kind of stuff. So just seeing that kind of stuff go down is really awesome. So kudos to your videos and your editing. I mean, it's like I said, it's high quality stuff. So hope that helps you out there. A little bit of a feedback or a review from me. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And that's like I've started this podcast really just mainly to tell stories. Like I was telling y'all earlier, I started to tell stories of guys who don't film hunts and want to have a way to encapsulate it. Like I recorded Tyler Trammell earlier this year, and he said it'd be a really neat story because he's got a little one gonna be here very soon, or either just had it. I think they have a baby on the way, but he said he's really excited to get to share this story, the recorded audio, the video, and everything on YouTube. He'll get to show it with him forever,
Right.
Right. But no, that's been really neat to dive into that, kind of see how people do, and trying to get feedback on that, and some people like it, and I don't have a lot of followers or anything yet, but so far the feedback's been good, so I know feedback definitely helps.
Oh yeah.
So back to you, DJ. I know you've taken a couple of trips out west this year so far. Where have you been? What have you killed? Any crazy stories happen? Any flat tires? Anything wild? I know if you go across the country, 12 times out of 10, something's going to happen that's story worthy. So how have those trips gone?
Yeah, man. The first one that we took, actually me and Chase took, was New Mexico. Went on the elk hunt. That was kind of sporadic. Just out of the blue, Chase hit me up one day and was like, "Yo, there's an elk hunt for cheap." Both pitched in. We rolled with it, and I don't know how we made it back because that was the most sporadic thing that we've ever done in our life. But it was fun. It was fun. We had a good time with it. Passed up. Actually chases out like 20 yards. Could have shot him 15 different times, but I passed him up. I was like, man, I want Chase to get one more than I want to get one. And, man, he flipped around. And the guy did a little cow call, did a little elk bugle, and I mean he was ready to fight Chase. He come right up in his lap. Chase smoked him. That was a pretty good story. Pretty good trip. Had a lot of fun on that one. Texas was another crazy adventure. 6 miles from the border. Went down there, shot an axis deer, all that. 2 bucket list animals that I've had for a while. That was a different story, different time. A lot of Modelo's drank on that one.
Chase, what was since you killed the elk, Chase? Tell me a little bit about your experience, kind of how that went.
Well, first of all, me and DJ planned a week-long elk trip in Mexico in under 2 weeks. So, luckily to have friends like him, I texted him, told him about it, and he's like, "Let's go now!" Like, and he texted me 3 or 4 days afterwards, like, when we leave, and like, let's go. And there's not many people that'll do that with you, and I love stuff like that last minute ordeal. Hop on a plane, go somewhere, nothing on the mind, but let's hunt and be successful with it. And we did, man. We hopped on a plane and went out there and shoot it. I mean, even if I didn't shoot one, luckily enough, I got a friend like DJ. He actually passed the elk up and let me shoot him. But like I said, even if neither of us killed, we still had a heck of a time, man. We had a good guide out there, and it's a different world out there. DJ can vouch for that. It's completely different than here. So me and him was both in like outer space for a week, and but it was a dang good time.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good to have friends like that where you can say, "Hey, man, you want to go to Mexico tomorrow?" No, that's wild. I'm sure y'all were running around like crazy, throwing stuff in the truck. May have had bags and it may not have had bags, but no, that's hilarious. So on your elk,
I think we was more worried about getting through customs at the airport than was anything.
Yeah, camera cases, bow cases.
Oh, they flagged us for everything going through that thing.
oh, I'm sure. I've flown with a rifle, or well, it was a shotgun one time. Went up to Wisconsin on a bear hunt, and I know that was an ordeal. That was heck, I forget what year that was. 07 maybe, but so that was before. Well, that was. I mean, customs were still a pain, but no, flying with any kind of weapon, golly, it adds to the struggle of flying.
Yep.
So Chase, talk about your elk. How big was it? Was it 5x5, 5x6? What was it? Talk me through that. Talk me through that hunt a little bit.
So we'd been kind of hunting for three or 4 days. Was it the third day, DJ? Third. Yeah, we'd been hunting every morning and then hunting every evening. We was kind of sitting on water holes and stuff in the evening time, and we in the morning times they were just getting heated up, I guess, out there. I mean, they was bugling and stuff like that, but they weren't like sure enough ready to break and come to a call, like a hot turkey would or something. And then that evening it was just like a light switch, I guess. We sat down on a water hole and that we hadn't even been to yet, and we hadn't been sitting there maybe 5 minutes, and one bugled behind me, and then maybe a minute after that, another one bugles across the pond for me, which is on DJ's side. And shoot, it wasn't 5 minutes, I don't think. I looked up and he was coming off the ridge over there, and the first time I seen him, he was like maybe 25 yards from DJ. And he's just sitting there and he's like pointing at me, telling me to shoot him. I was like, no, like, you shoot him. So finally, I don't know if the wind swirled or what. He got a little squirrely and kind of ran. But when he ran to my side of the pond. He like jumped over this little bank or whatever. And then the guide, so it was me here, DJ here, and then the guide was backed up in between both of us. So when he bugled, the elk come running, he had to run by me to figure out where the call was coming from. Well, when he did that, I had to stop him, and I ended up stopping him at like 8 or 10 yards and shot him right there, and he ran probably, I don't know, 80, 100 yards maybe, and it was party on after that.
Tailgate parties for days.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy, man. To see it, like, I know elk are big, but I feel like that's an animal, when you see it in person, you'd be like, oh my gosh, bigger than a cow. I mean, you've seen cows around here in North Georgia, but see an elk that close, I'm sure it had to look like prehistoric, like a dinosaur.
Yeah, it's a different feeling, sure.
Yeah, and then that's a blessing for that that elk to only run 80 or 100 yards. I've heard of stories of people shooting an elk and it runs 300-400 yards. I mean, heck, a white-tailed deer with a good shot can run a long ways. So I can only imagine an elk, lucky to get it passed through. Hopefully you do. But if you don't get it passed through, it's going to be tougher to track, and they're going to run through. No telling how long you can track them. So, no, that's awesome. They didn't have to track them that long. And I'm sure y'all were celebrating like crazy for it to come together last minute, plan it last minute, hightail it out there. Man, I'm sure y'all were on cloud nine.
We was celebrating like crazy because he didn't go off the bluff. He was about to go off. Boy, we'd been out there 2 days packing him out.
Yeah. He had about maybe 5 steps, and he went off the side of a mountain, and we'd probably still be there packing him out.
So, did y'all use horses or 4-wheelers or anything to pack them out, or was it all foot?
Yeah, luckily the place we was at, they had 4-wheelers, so luckily we could get a 4-wheeler too. And so we had to we dressed him out right there, gutted him out, and we got him on the back of a 4-wheeler, and we flipped it 3 times, getting him to the water, and then got him out finally. It was still a process. It wasn't as hard as actually packing him out, but it was still a process for sure.
Yeah,
Hell, I'd rather
that's
pack
after.
them out and flip that four-wheeler.
Did y'all flip it on top of anybody, or how did the flipping go?
I mean, I got swung about 15 yards. That's about it.
Because you would have that elk, they would all just put like the two front feet on the head. So it's pretty much just riding a wheelie. So anytime weight shifts, the whole four-wheeler turns with it. And DJ's on one fender, I'm on the other, then the guide's driving it. So you hit one root ball, and it's like somebody's going that way and somebody's going that way.
Well,
It got Western.
I'm sure. Well, I bet the suspension was bottomed out, so it's going to bounce even worse if you hit anything. I bet that was a sight to see. Did you ever get that any of that on video?
I don't know how much video we got of that whole process. I don't think we got a little bit of it on video, I think, but more than less, I think we let up that ordeal just because we was trying to get it done before dark and bears and like when I shot him and we got to him, we had to go back out and get the four-wheeler or whatever, and we had to lay. Our guide literally told us, he's like, if you have extra clothes, like lay them on top of him and pee right here somewhere close by, because if you don't, like, we'll get back and mountain lions or bear will have him drug off. So we was trying to get him out of there before dark time come.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And that's and y'all know this as good as anybody. Once you kill the deer, the fun begins. Or once you kill game, anything, the fun begins. But yeah, that sounds like that was the meaning of the word fun,
Yeah.
You see the guys on YouTube that or whatever, you hear a story about someone killing an elk and they have to pack it out 3 or 4 people on their backs. I mean, that right there would suck. So thankfully you had a four-wheeler, but I'm glad y'all made it back in one piece.
Yeah.
even if you did flip a few times. Barely. You made it back, but everything's gonna have its challenge for sure. But so were y'all staying at so you said it was a guided service, were y'all like in a lodge or pretty nice setup there?
Yeah, we was staying in a tent on a cot, about 27 degrees, snowing one night. it was a different ball game. Ball game. What I thought it was, that's for sure.
Yeah, so we had like a base camp like here, and we would eat lunch. We would eat lunch there, and then while we was there, they had a camp cook. He would cook our supper for that night and our breakfast for the next morning. So we would go back. We would leave base camp, go hunt, and then we would go back to our tents, which was like 20 minutes, 30 minutes away from the base camp, which was just 2 tents. And we would eat. We would hunt that evening, go back to our tents. We would eat dinner there, wake up the next morning. We'd warm our breakfast up there. And then we'd hunt that morning. And then when we'd go back to our tents, we'd kind of shed some layers, put our bows up, and then we would go back to the base camp and do it over or whatever. So, but like where we stayed, like DJ said, we just had like 2 wall tents, 2 cots, and we had a kerosene heater in there, but you couldn't leave it on too long or you'd look like Willie Nelson walking out of it the next morning. You say hi.
No, yeah, that sounds like a good experience. I'm sure y'all are stronger men for it, for staying in a tent in the 27 degrees and can't leave a heater on because you might die or get high. No, that's funny.
Yeah, it was definitely an experience. So like the first night, I remember we was laying there, and me and DJ the first night, we're kind of worried about that whole altitude sickness thing and all that. So it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just hear like, Chase. So I like wake up freaking out. He's like, you hear that? I'm like, what's up? And he's like, elk bugling right outside the tent. It's like, me and him being from Georgia, we've never heard of elk, like a real elk bugle, So we get out of the tent, we're standing outside, and the guide, he's like a like Mexican cowboy pretty much that lives out there. And he's like, what are you guys doing? Like, Waylon, you hear that elk bugling out here? He's like, yeah, they do it every night. Like, go back to bed. But me and him were like freaking out, because we've never seen it. So. But just stuff like that, it's just different to us, but so normal Like, what is wrong with these rednecks?
No, that's funny. I can imagine a Mexican cowboy, and they're like, "What do you?" They do it every night. Go back to bed. You're fine. Like, you're gonna be okay. Promise.
This guy was no joke, man. he was off the charts. He had 10 out of 10 guide service, that's for sure. Good Lord.
So you said they weren't quite at the height or the peak of being able to be called in. Did y'all get to hear a good bit of bugling while y'all were hunting, or like were they pretty receptive, or was it kind of a slower deal?
What would you say, DJ? I mean, we heard a decent amount of bugling, I guess, but it never got like super crazy.
I mean, compared to what you see on TV, I mean, it wasn't hot yet. I'd say we was about a week, 2 weeks early.
Yeah.
I could only imagine what happened on that mountainside whenever he left. I mean, I could only imagine because the weather was changing just constantly. I mean, we had 90-degree middays and we had 20-degree nights. It was about to hit. It was just a matter of seconds. It just wasn't our time yet as far as that goes. Chase he got one off a call, but that's really about it. And we had a second one that same night coming in, but it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was like what you would see on TV.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's especially y'all planning it last minute. I'm sure it's tough to hit it right, because that's. I mean, in Georgia, they'll rut about the same week every year, or same span of a couple days, but year to year it can also vary. And I've never elk hunted. I've heard stories be told. Like you said, we've watched it on TV or YouTube before, but I'm sure there's a certain peak you want to hit, and it's probably a coin flip whether or not you hit it or not. And that's not like you can. It's not like driving down to Gainesville. You're hopping on a plane, flying to Mexico. So it's not like I'm like, oh, we'll just come back next week. No big deal. A little different. Not sure if y'all would want to, given the tent and almost dying on a 4-wheeler, but I mean, mission accomplished. But I'm glad to be alive.
If a man had about 4 weeks to spend out there, it'd be worth it all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we've done that. We took a trip over to Lake Gunnersville to fish one time. It was for my bachelor party, actually, and it was in July. So we went over there expecting the best summertime fishing, deep cranking. Thought it was going to be lights out, but it was unseasonably hot, and it was not a great trip. I mean, we had a good time for sure, but no, the fishing was not what we thought it was going to be. But and that's like you said, if you could spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever in a place, you could probably hit it right. Pick that one good window. But no, sounds like that's a trip you'll always remember. Hopefully, y'all did get a little bit of video from it, and I'm sure y'all will have stories to tell, even more than what you've already told or what you can tell legally on this podcast. But I'm sure you'll have some great stories to share for a long time for that. So that's awesome. So talking about upcoming trips, and y'all took the elk trip together, so that sounds like a great time. Do y'all have any upcoming trips together y'all are taking, or do y'all have anything else planned yet, or is it going to be another 3 days later? Hey, let's run to Ohio real quick.
I'm hoping Chase will hook me up on a good duck hunt. That dog back there, she's worthless right now. She's ready to go work.
Yeah, I don't have anything in plans right now, which I'm kind of on a PTO. I was already on PTO at work before the whole elk trip, but I went negative for that, so I burned PTO to go on that trip. I'm trying to build it up right now. But if I end up tagging out in Georgia in the next couple of weeks, then I may end up taking like a late weekend trip or something like that, going hunting some public somewhere or something like that, maybe. And then me and DJ, we talked about maybe going duck hunting for a weekend or something like that in later season. So there's no telling. I'm a super last minute. Like that New Mexico trip wasn't my first last minute ordeal. I'll get on my phone and see somebody in Illinois that killed a big deer, and it just looked cool. And then next thing I know, I'm on Google searching, how do I go to Illinois this weekend? And I'll go up there for 2 or 3 days. So I'm probably the world's worst about it, honestly. So that question, there really isn't no telling. But as of right now, there's nothing in the books.
Gotcha. Well, hey, sometimes those last-minute plans are the best ones. It sounds like that ended up pretty good for y'all. So maybe that's how y'all should do it. Like, nope, we're not making any long-range plans. We plan less than a week, tops.
Yep.
No, but that's awesome. I guess the last topic we can, or not the last one, but a topic I wanted to bring up to both of y'all. I don't know how much urban hunting you've done, DJ. I know I haven't done much at all. You know, I hunt in Lumpkin and the Wilkes pretty much. I've been on a few trips out of state, but most of mine is rural, you know, big private pieces. I wanted to talk about, especially with the rut coming up, what differences do you see, Chase, in hunting an urban setting like down Alpharetta, Roswell, something like that, Metro Atlanta, you know, down when there's a lot higher population density of people versus rural? So how do you hunt it differently? Is it kind of the same? I mean, do the deer act the same, or is it, you know, what factors kind of come in there? Urban versus rural hunting the rut.
I mean, during the rut, I usually kind of study. I try to study, like, main thing in suburbs, and if I was hunting, like, around here, bigger woods or something like that, during the rut, I usually, like, always try to study creeks and stuff like that, or, like, big sewer easements or fields or something that's pretty open, you know, where deer can run it and travel up it, you know. Like, even if I was hunting 1,000 acres, I'd try to find big creek junction or something like that, you know what I mean? I just like hunting big creek bottoms like that, and I know bucks will travel. And I do the same thing down there. I mean, like this past weekend, I hunted that public hunt right here next to the house, the Dawson Forest rifle hunt they had. And I haven't hunted it in years, and I just kind of got on the map and found a few creek bottoms and creeks that had run into the river, and we just kind of set up on those. We didn't have any luck. We found a pretty good bit of sign in some other spots and stuff like that. But like the suburb hunting, it's pretty much the same thing. Like, a lot of times I'll try to just, like, pretty much just block out the houses when I'm looking at a map and act like it is big. Like, if the house wasn't there, just treat it as woods was there, you know, and just kind of run with it that way, which you kind of got to, you know, the way it's laid out down there. You know, you get in the backside of a neighborhood and there's 40 houses and one strip of woods that run through it. And the only reason that strip of woods don't have houses on it is because of creeks there, and they couldn't build on it. So I find myself on a creek a pretty good bit, whether I knew it was there or didn't know it was there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. That's something that I haven't heard many people say, and I'm sure people do say it, but yeah, something I look forward to is wide open woods, because, you know, being able to shoot at a deer that's running full speed. You know, if you're in a thicket or hunting a nice thick area and he runs by you, you're like, oh, well, that there was a nice buck. He's gone. You know, he's gone forever.
Right.
So yeah, something definitely I think is important for people. Find a spot where you got open shots. You know, be around water, like you said. Be where the bucks are already going to be. You know, or if you've got does in a certain area, and like you said, creek bottoms is a great way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really focused a lot on creek bottoms. You know, on our hunting club in Wilkes, we're on 1,500 acres, and we have 13 or 14 paying members, or, you know, families that hunt it. And so we have kind of our primary areas that we always hunt. And down there, and this is, you know, 2 hours south, so I mean, it's a little bit different, you know, wood makeup. It's not all hardwoods, but we do have some great hardwood flats. And what I've noticed is I like to hunt the edges of where the pines and oaks, you know, will blend, because those bucks down there, they'll travel the creek bottoms, but they like to also travel in the pines a lot, just because it's quieter. They can move around easier. I mean, I feel like the pine needles, you know, absorb sound a lot, so it's just quiet, you know, so they can travel undetected.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I mean, and I'm sure there's some pines and whatnot on Dawson Forest, but that's something that I like to do, is find the transition. Like, I think wild game in general, fishing, hunting, you know, bass fishing, transitions are a good area. If the rock goes from big, you know, slab rock to chunk rock, or chunk rock to pea gravel, that's a good place to be. and then deer. If it's some kind of a transition area is what I like to be on too. DJ, what about you? I know you hunt your parents' property or your family property, the farm up here in Dahlonega, and y'all got a good bit of land. What is and up here it's usually Thanksgiving week when they'll start rutting. What is your game plan? Like if it was Thanksgiving morning or, that week of Thanksgiving, what would you be doing tomorrow?
Yeah, man, we got two ways of doing it. My buddy Braxton, that he hunts with me constantly. He's been hunting with me since I was 14 years old. He loves open hardwood ridges. I'm the exact opposite. I love to get in the fields. I love to get in between food sources. I love to watch those does that are trying to get food and the bucks chasing after them, and they'll run slap through them fields. And that's kind of my game plan. I got one spot that I'm probably going to hunt the whole week out of 2,300 acres. So I'm set. As long as I got a field, I'm good.
Yeah, my grandmother has some property up here in Lumpkin, and there's some pastures, and I know there's a very sweet couple of days where those bucks will get out there chasing the does in the pasture. It doesn't happen the whole week. There'll be bucks on the property that move through, that travel through. But like you said, there's a sweet spot, and I haven't hit it good quite yet. I've had some good hunts where I've seen, 20, 30, 40 deer and a lot of small bucks chasing, but I haven't had that night. Like for example, back when I was in college, I got so mad. I was in an 8 a.m. math class, and a buddy of mine texted me, or I think he may have called me. Then he texted me after, and he said, "Hey, I just drove by your grandma's house, and there's a giant buck out there chasing a bunch of does." I'm in class. I packed up my stuff and ran out the room. Like I was like, "Hey, I'm not feeling good. I gotta go." And of course, by the time I got there, Buck was already gone. I was at UNG in Dahlonega, and she lives in Dahlonega too. But yeah, that's happened to me that year a couple of times actually that week. I was in class and people called me and said, "Hey, I saw a nice buck crossing the road to your grandma's house." I'm like, "Well, appreciate it." Did you tie him up for me? But no, those pastures can be a lot of fun. But I know on the property that I hunt, there's usually a sweet spot of a couple of days where they'll do it pretty good.
Yeah.
But shoot, yeah.
Yeah, like you said, man, I hunt the does. As long as I got good amount of does traveling where I want to hunt, that's where I'm going to be. One of them is going to be hot. One of them is going to get a good buck in.
Yeah, that's the free decoys.
That's right.
And I tell you, and you'll go ahead.
I was just saying, I say free decoys, but they're not too free after you feed them all year and do all that crap.
Yeah, it costs money to keep those things around. But we can talk about hunting over bait here in a minute, and that's not really a hot topic, but something that I think now people are figuring out how to do it and how people are being very successful with it. But no, I had something else I was going to say and I lost my train of thought. If I can think of it again. No, that's what 30 does to you. But no, we'll go ahead and talk about bait. But yeah, hunting over bait. I talk about this with a guy that I work with a good bit about how it literally changes the dynamics of a property. This is for the people that feed year round. So there's a guy that I work with who has land in, I think, Hancock County. And he's got a gravity feeder that he puts. It's like a 600 or 700 pound feeder. It's a gigantic feeder, and he goes down every few weeks and feeds it up. No telling how much money he spent, and he feeds corn, protein. It's like a dietary program he's got them on. And the first year or two that he fed, they ended up like he said, man, it's just not, a lot of does, a lot of small bucks. He wasn't seeing the good ones. And people on bordering properties were still killing good ones. And now he's probably 4 years into feeding, year round consistently. And he's got, he's already killed a good buck. I'll be interviewing him on here in the next few weeks. He killed it. I think it ended up being just a 7-pointer, but he had to be 19 inches wide, probably 4.5, 5-inch bases. It was an ancient deer, just a gigantic buck. And he's probably got 3 or 4 other shooters that are coming in the daylight to that stand all the time. And me and him got to talking, and we're like, those bucks were literally raised on the bait. You know, when you feed 3 or 4 years consistently, those, like, since the time they were a fawn, that feeder is not odd to them. Now
Yep.
they're like, that's an acre, that's like a corn tree, and it produces corn all year long. I mean, that's something that I've noticed. The consistent feeding definitely. I mean, you still have to hunt. It's not like it's shooting fish in a barrel by any means, but it's definitely changed the dynamics of hunting. And what have y'all experienced that same kind of thing? If you feed consistently, have y'all seen that before?
Yeah, I have for sure. Like, especially the whole suburban thing down there. You know, it's not like it changes a lot down there because, you know, like say you got 2 neighborhoods here, and you can only hunt this one strip in the back here. Got a strip that runs off of it this way, like, and this patch up here goes into like a hole of nothing. You know, it don't have any oak trees or anything. You couldn't get permission on any of these where the deer actually travel already on their own. But you could get permission up here. Like, they have no reason to go up there unless you do have feed up there. You know, I've noticed it that way. You know, like getting spots down there, it helps a lot doing that. But then at the same time, it can hurt you. Like, I've seen mature deer that just want absolutely nothing to do with a corn pile. And then, but like I said, you have those small blocks there that you can't really, that's about all you can do on feed. You know, a deer don't have a reason to go over there unless there is food out for them and stuff like that. So it's like that deer that I shot last week or whenever, 2 weeks ago. Man, he come in and he was a mature deer. He was the most mature deer in that area. And I hadn't had a single daylight picture of that deer at all. And then that Friday morning, I was at work and he popped up on the cell camera. He was in like 8:30. I was like, what the heck, man? So I shot out from work, you know, went down there, and I was pretty sure I knew where he was, long story short. And when he come in that evening, he stood like 60, 70 yards from the corn. If y'all watch the video, it'll post probably next week, but you'll see him. He stands like 60, 70 yards from the corn. He just stood there for probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes and just stared at it. Never moved, never nothing. You know, he was just sure enough, like slowly checking it out. And when he finally did commit and come in there, he comes in, and I didn't know it, but I had a doe below me, and she actually had pinned me down, and I didn't know it. Like, as soon as I was about to draw, she blows, and it wasn't even a second. He turned around and shot out of there. Like, I mean, you couldn't even see him running. He was running so fast. And just luckily, I think I had so many deer on me that evening that I think he almost like scared himself. So he got down there, and and I could be totally wrong on this, but I think he kind of got down there and was like, all right, maybe it was nothing because there's deer still like standing up there or whatever. So he slowly come back in, and that's when I shot him the second time. But that, I kind of got off subject there. But like what I was saying is he come in and he just like stared that corn pile down, you know, like he just knew it wasn't normal. And this is the first year I've hunted that place. I don't think feed has ever been put on it because all the doors that I've knocked on and tried to get permission and stuff on, like, you could tell nobody's ever really hunted in there unless it was being poached or something, you know. So I don't think those deer had seen that much corn and stuff like that. You could tell it was his, I'm not going to say first rodeo, but he was not used to that being there. And I don't know, you could tell it wasn't normal to him, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's another dynamic to all this too. Is like you said, if it's your first time feeding on a piece of property, those deer are definitely going to be a little bit more skittish, a little bit more on edge, you know, because they know it's not natural. And I feel like deer do know that. I mean, I feel like we don't give deer enough credit. A lot of times is they have like a sixth sense. I don't know if they can like sense you there or if it's just. I mean, obviously their noses are insane.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like deer know if it's not natural. And like I said, until you've been feeding a spot for 3-4 plus years, then and at that point, those bucks are like, okay, that's natural. That's been there for a long time since they were born, you know. But no, that's an interesting dynamic I didn't really think about in the urban setting, you know, hunting the suburbs or the neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
Is that if there's not any food in the area, or like if you door knock and have a decent block of woods, but there's not great food, like
Mm-hmm.
why else would they be coming in there except for corn? So
Right.
that's pretty interesting. And then two,
Right.
I feel like that simulates. You know, I've listened to the MSU Deer Lab, their podcast a good bit, and they've done studies where they simulate, you know, a full mast year on certain oak trees, where they'll, you know, if it's a year where the acorns are not falling like crazy,
Mm-hmm.
they will, you know, take and not plant, but they'll pour out, you know, bukus of acorns under that tree as if it's, you know, an insanely heavy acorn year.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's kind of what you're doing in those areas, because there's obviously not as much woods as, you know, a big wooded area because there's houses.
Right.
And, you know, so a lot of the oak trees have been cut down. So literally you're adding in, you know, pounds of food, or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, pounds per acre, however you want to break that down. You're adding in food and nutrients to them. So that's a pretty neat deal.
Right.
Uh,
That's like what you were saying, like it ain't natural or what. Like the way I've always looked at it is, you know, you get like a short enough mature deer in there, and it's pretty much like tonight. If you was to come home into your house, you got off of work today, you come home, and there was a plate sitting in the middle of your living room that had filet mignon on it, and a baked potato, and a mac and cheese, and a slice of cornbread sitting there. It would be all, you know, it's not natural, you know, just sitting in the middle of the floor there. You know, he's lived there his whole life, and all of a sudden he comes in one day and there's 100 pounds of yellow acorns laying on the ground. He's gonna be like, well, all right, now, like, this ain't real right, you know. He eventually, I think about all deer, eventually they just can't resist. I think they're eventually going to go there and eat it, whether it be 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the evening. That's a whole different ball game, but that it definitely makes a difference, I think.
no, for sure. And DJ, how about you? Do you feed year round on your farm, or do you do kind of just during the season, or how do you do it there?
Yeah, man, it started off seasonal. About 2 years ago, we started doing it year round. Straight corn to begin with, and then this year we switched to corn and protein. Started bag feeding. Figured out real quick that was not the way to go. We had to get some feeders out and put some feeders out. I'd say probably, I don't know, 3 4 months ago. Uh, got those feeders out, and man, those deer, they just demolish like they're addicted to it. It's like that protein pellets are just cracked to them. They just hammer it every chance they can. Another issue that we've come about is the bears. Uh, got a big issue with the bears. I'd say I'd probably had at least 20 different bears over the summer. Right now, I've narrowed it down to two, not illegally. They've just migrated out. But we've got an issue with them. They'll come back around, come about spring, and yeah, hopefully us and the DNR can get together and figure out that situation, because it's bad. It's bad. You know, you waste a lot of money, a lot of time. You know, your feeders. Let's just say your feeders cost $600-700 a piece. You got 10 of them out there, and they all get wrecked by a bear in a freaking spring. You know, that's not fun. It's not cool. You find yourself in a hole real quick.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's kind of how it is on some land I hunt up here. Is we'll have bears coming through in the warmer months. They'll, you know, kind of stay on the property. They dig into my trash. I bet I've picked up trash out of my yard 8 or 10 times this summer. But now they're gone. I mean, we didn't have 20, but we probably had 5 or 6 different bears. And, you know, they hit my parents' trash, they'd get my trash, they'd hit my aunt's. You know, we all live kind of in the same area. And, you know, they'd go on a rampage one night and tear into our trash, you know, and of course they'd eat the deer food too. And, you know, and that's illegal. You can't, even if you saw one come out on that feeder, you can't shoot it over bait. And I know what happens. I'm sure people do it. But, yeah, and that's like you said, the DNR. I feel like something will have to happen eventually because, baiting is legal for deer, but it's illegal for bears. And I'm not sure there may be a biological reason as to why they decided to do that. But it's like we don't have an issue of, not enough bears. Anybody you talk to is like they don't just have one every now and again. It's like they have a lot of bears.
Oh yeah.
So like I feel like something will happen. Maybe not next year, but I feel like something will happen.
I had 2 different bears over the summer with geo collars on them, and that's a whole different, if they're bears without collars on them, that's cool, whatever. But whenever they start getting collars on them, I'm like, all right, who put these damn things here?
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass. It really is, and like I said, it's a waste of time, waste of money.
Yep.
Nobody up here wants to mess with them. As far as I know, anybody I ask that wants to come kill a bear, they're going to be from Texas. They ain't got them out there, It's just a different ball game.
Right. No, but that's bear's definitely a problem. And like I said, hopefully something will come about to make it easier on hunters and landowners. Because like I said, our issue around here is mainly trash. I mean,
they're a nuisance.
No, they really are.
Yeah, no, they're a bad deal, man.
Yeah, well, heck yeah, guys. Well, I have enjoyed it thoroughly. Thank y'all both for coming on. I've enjoyed talking about y'all's different ventures, your trips, killing an elk out west, staying in a tent, almost dying on a 4-wheeler, having a legit Mexican cowboy as your guide. I'm sure that, like I said, a lot of good stories there. So I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening to the Bucktails Podcast.